7 o'clock. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Grafton School Committee to order on December 10th, 2024. I'll open the floor for public comment. Is there anybody who would like to give public comment tonight? Seeing none, we have people in the gallery, so I had to ask. We'll move to general business, promising practices. I believe Dr.
Sure. You guys can come on up. It's my pleasure to introduce the wonderful counseling team from Grafton Middle School. This team is going to be speaking to work that was recently recognized by the Blackstone Valley Educational Consortium in their Everyday Practices ceremony. It was held over at BVT. Tony Spoke did a wonderful job. So we've got Rachel Clark, school psychologist, Tony Kissel, adjustment counselor, Megan Gasper, adjustment counselor, and Christina Marazzo, school counselor. So let them take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us tonight. Thank you to the members of the school committee for allowing us to be here and share your space tonight. I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you for Dr. Cummings for advocating for our team and allowing us to sit here and kind of talk about the awesome things we've been doing over the past 2 years. To start, you already introduced us and did such a powerful job, but just so you can put faces to names, I am Tony Kissel, one of the school adjustment counselors at Grafton Middle School.
Christina Marazzo, the school counselor. Rachel Clark, school psychologist. And Megan Gasper, school adjustment counselor for the Lighthouse program.
So for today, we just wanted to give some terminology, maybe some things that you guys might not run across all the time. These are a series of 3 letters that we see all the time and that we use, but we just wanted to put for some definitions. So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. The GAD-7 is an anxiety screener or survey that one takes to get a number. The PHQ is the patient health questionnaire, which is a mood or depression screener. SI is suicide ideation. YRBS is the youth risk behavior survey. And SEL is social emotional learning.
All right, so we're going to dive into a little of last year. So before last year, we had delivered signs of suicide, which is a mood and depression screening for 7th graders. But as of last year, so the year 2023, 2024, we did a intervention for the SOS program that was 6 weeks. So if kids answered yes to 3 or more, so there are 7 questions total, 3 or more questions on the screener, yes, or any yeses to the SI statement questions, we would call them down and they would answer just like a follow-up. And then we would do this intervention, 6-week intervention. Another thing we offered last year was an intervention for anxiety. So we did 2 random 7th grade classrooms. And for students who scored 10 or more out of the 21 questions on the GAD-7, we would then again call them down and they would be part of this intervention. And then also, as of last year, during enrichment, we did the second step curriculum. So that was for both 7th and 8th graders who did enrichment. And then the last thing was the Naviance curriculum. As of this year, incorporating it into the 8th grade enrichment.
So in looking at some of the data from last year, so this was for the Signs of Suicide program. So for the 7th grade, we broke the 7th grade into 2 cohorts. Cohort A was our 7 white team. Cohort B was our 7 green team. So for 7 white, of the 109 students who were given the program, 21 of them flagged. So answered yes to 3 or more questions and or noted past or present suicidal ideation. So 19.3% of that sample. For 7 green, of the 96 students, 23 of them flagged, or 24%. So combined for our 7th grade last year, we had 21.5% who endorsed some level of depressive symptoms. So of those students who opted in to receive the intervention, we used the Trails to Wellness curriculum. So that's an evidence-based intervention for depression and anxiety. It helps students to understand their symptoms and to build a toolbox of coping skills. The topics that we covered during the lessons over the 6 weeks were emotion identification, the cognitive behavioral therapy model, automatic negative thoughts and thinking traps, cognitive coping, mindfulness, and behavioral activation. And then for progress monitoring, we use the PHQ, which is that brief depression screener. So we administered pre and post test to the students. And this just gives you a visual of the breakdown of scores for some context when we start talking about data. So 1 to 4 points is no to minimal depression, 5 to 9 mild, 10 to 14 moderate, 15 to 19 moderately severe, and then 20 to 27 is severe.
So out of the 44 students who flagged on that SOS screener, 24 of them opted into the intervention. So in order to measure the progress that they were making throughout our intervention group, we administered the PHQ during the first week, and our average score was a 14.32. So based off of what Rachel just said, it was on the higher end of that moderate scale. And then during week 5, we administered again to see how they were doing, and we had an 11.33 average. So overall, the intervention was a success, and there was a 20.9% reduction in reported symptoms.
Another big goal for our department last year was gaining an anxiety baseline for our school. And the way that we did that was by randomly selecting 2 classes within each cohort. Again, 7 green, 7 white. And once that class was identified, we screened them with the GAD-7. And out of 24 students in our 7 green class, 11 flagged for 44%. And then the 7 white class that was screened, 3 flagged out of 23 for a 13.1%. Big discrepancy there, just between both classes. Combined gives us about a 29.2% anxiety percentage average for our school, which we can then aggregate out to see how many kids potentially are affected at the severe to moderate level of anxiety. You can go to the next slide. For those who were who did flag, we brought them in for an 8-week group intervention, again with cognitive behavioral therapy curriculum. So for all the students who opted in, pretty low, unfortunately. It was 7 out of 28, 25%. But for those who did, obviously we can see there were huge gains. Students so before we started any of the weeks of intervention, we're at a 15.3 average on the GAD-7. And after the 8 weeks, we brought them down again, screened them, and it went all the way down to an 8 on average. So it's a 52.3% reduction in reported symptoms.
All right. So for this current school year, some of the goals that we have already going is the grade 7 screening for anxiety. So again, we screen grade 7 for anxiety and then have the 8-week intervention to them available. And then we also are currently screening kids for the SOS program. We run it, and then we give them the we give them the questions, and then if they answer yes to 3 or more, then again they have the opportunity to do the intervention. And then lastly, in the spring of the school year, we are going to administer the YRBS survey again.
So to start, in order to intervene, give intervention to all of our grade 7 students, we broke it into trimesters, so 3. And for our first cohort, 20 flagged out of 86 students for a 23.3%. So that is our percentage for our first trimester grade 7 students. And luckily, we just finished the intervention 2 weeks ago. So 13 out of 20 decided to join, which is at 65%. So luckily, we are seeing an increase in kids buy-in as we're offering these things more. So the pre-test was at 13.7, and the post, all 12 out of 13, because I haven't gotten to the last student yet, is 11.6. So we saw a 14.3% reduction in reported symptoms for this first trimester.
And for the SOS program, so far, we've administered the program to cohort A, so half of the 7th grade. Out of the 110 students in this group, 19 of them flagged. So the percentage is 17.3% so far for this cohort. And then of those 19 students, 10 of them opted into the intervention. Their pretest PHQ score was a 13.5. The intervention is still ongoing, so it will end on December 16th, and then we will have that post-test data. All right, so we've talked a lot about Tier 2 intervention, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our Tier 3 Lighthouse program. So the Lighthouse program is a therapeutic support program that supports a wide range of students. We've got students who are dealing with persistent mental health concerns, long-term hospitalizations, whether that's medical or mental health related, extended absences, school or class refusal, students who might have difficult behaviors within the classroom setting, and it's offered to IEP 504 or regular ed students. It's just that extra added layer of support. Lighthouse is individualized for each student's needs and supported by a special education teacher, an adjustment counselor, and a classroom para. That's usually like the 3-prong approach is the best way to do it. And it's just a more acute approach to help students who need a little bit more support. So there's 2 different parts to Lighthouse. There's a long-term part and a transition. So our long-term is called SSP. It's our student support program. And this is where students are enrolled for a long period of time. It could be their 7th grade year, 8th grade year, both years. And then we have the transition piece, which is usually a student is enrolled between 8 to 10 weeks. And along the way, we kind of reevaluate, see what the progress is, see if they might need a longer term or maybe shorter term, whether they're making enough progress to transition out. Some of the services that are offered through Lighthouse is direct academic instruction, individual and group school-based counseling, classroom-based accommodations and modifications, case coordination with outside providers, family and guardian communication, as well as positive behaviorals. So lastly, this is one of the cases that we have the data from. We had a student who came into school, had a lot of anxiety about attending classes. As you can see at their baseline point, we were attending 0 classes. Over a 7-week period, we were able to build on that, kind of identify the things that were creating the anxiety, the barriers that were getting in the way to getting to class. And throughout those 7 weeks, they are now at 100% of all classes. So just between the milieu, the counseling support, we were able to really make a lot of progress.
So now we're going to pivot to talking about the future, specifically for our department and our goals. In the future, we would like to continue to build a comprehensive school mental health system. We would like to screen as many students as possible in 7th and 8th grade for anxiety, depression, and mood. And we'd like to offer them 8 weeks of group intervention for all of those disorders. That's our goal to get to for all students. And then utilize evidence-based programming to support intervention based on needs identified via screening, data, and the YRBS.
And lastly, we just wanted to say that we are able to provide these proactive approaches due to all of us, all of the support that we give each other. We are a team and we thrive, actually, if I'm being honest. So just looking towards the future, we hope to continue to expand to all 7th and 8th graders, just like Tony had said. We're great. And that's it.
Today, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all of your hard work and all of your time. I have heard nothing but positive things about this program and about all of your work. Parents like to tell me all the time just how supported their kids feel over at the middle school, and what a great change that has been in recent years. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to open it up for members of the committee to ask questions, and if they don't hit one that I want, then I'll ask. I'm going to start with yes, because she hit her hand up.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'll echo what Amy said. I mean, it's wonderful it might even seem like there's a lot of you, but I would still argue we probably need more. But from where we've started to have this team it's wonderful. What you're doing, the work you're doing is so important. And it was great to see that case study. I have a couple questions, if that's okay. My first question is, what happens to those kids that opt out? Are you able to follow up with them? Do they just, you're all nodding yes. Can somebody?
Yeah, I'll speak to that.
Thank you.
I think for us, like, as a lot of these things are trials, we're continuing to build our
Yeah,
support. I think for now, what's tough is not every kid is going to be ready for that.
right.
I think ultimately our goal is if kids do not opt into the intervention, that we can still run it in an RTI model.
Okay.
Fortunately, it sometimes does come down to staffing. So we try to catch as many kids as possible.
Is there still like a phone call home, at least so that for every kid, so at least the home
Yeah.
people at home?
Yeah, I think it's important. Notification's important. So at minimum.
Okay. And then this is kind of a wider question. 21% seemed high to me, but I'm guessing that it's not just a Grafton problem. Do you know how it has stood out compared to other districts?
Well,
I was going to say, so the SOS program estimates that you'll have around 15% of students who will require a follow-up conversation. So we're a little bit higher than their estimate, but close to what we would anticipate based on the program.
Thank you. And then my final question for now, thank you for letting me ask 3, is as how much connection is there between you and the guidance counselor in the high school? Are the programs able to kind of move up there as well, especially that Lighthouse program that you talked about, Megan? That seems super important. I know those issues still go in the high school. So are we able to work through there as well?
I can touch on the Lighthouse program. Yeah, so there is an SSP program at the high school that we work closely with. They're based off of the Bright model, which is a little bit different than Lighthouse, but we do collaborate constantly. And a lot of our kids who are in the Lighthouse program for that long-term intervention also follow up into the high school long-term intervention. And even those kiddos who might need that transition period at the end of the school year, we also kind of be, hey, just like heads up, this student might need a little bit more support.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
I can answer your first question just in regards to like, for the most part, I would say, I know we sometimes work case by case basis with some of the adjustment counselors in high school, but overall, it seems like both departments are kind of like siloed to their buildings, which is not necessarily a negative thing. There's different goals, I think, for each, but there's not a lot of, I would say, like necessarily collaboration within like the stuff that we're doing. And
Then I get that, but then would maybe there be a connection though between, so let's say a kid is in 8th grade, they're on this program and then they're moving to the high school. Does that kind of go with them? And the high school gets a heads up like, hey, this kid's struggling here, just like it would in academics.
Yeah. So we would communicate that.
Okay.
I don't think the high school is doing intervention like this, but we would say, hey, just so you know, they were involved in this 8-week intervention. This is how they started. This is how they ended.
Okay.
And just
Or if they're maybe still have work to do. They're still anxious. They're still only going to half the classes. And now I'm sending you to a bigger building with more people, with more pressure. So they might need a little more help once they get there. But I know that's not all on you guys. But thank you. Awesome work. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Rachel, Christina, Megan, Tony, and I also want to say thank you to Mr. Gleason, right? He's a big part of your team as well. You guys are amazing. As you know, I'm your fangirl. So, but I do have a question regarding the interventions where the numbers are going down. Are you seeing that the numbers are also going down because once you're alerting parents of these problems, are they seeking outside help in addition to the help that they're getting within the school system?
I absolutely, yes. The answer to that question is yes. I think a lot of times when we're working with our parents, if there are kids who don't make progress from that 8-week, they might need more. And that just opens up a conversation of like, what are next steps, whether that's at school or working with the parent to refer.
Yes. So. Now, have you been able to find a lot of therapists and prescribers outside to take on kids? I know that at this point, it's very hard for children to find a prescriber that's taking patients or a therapist or whatnot. I mean, as we see, the numbers are through the roof, and the amount of people that are taking on kids is actually getting lower. So,
No, it's a big problem. It's been a big problem for many years, which is why we've turned to like our school-based model to do as much, harm reduction as we can, especially for our moderate kiddos. That's where this short-term intervention is like really bread and butter. But in regards to being able to align students to outpatient, we've been pretty successful. I would say I can't speak for everyone, but there's still definitely a wait list. But like it seems to be getting like what used to be a year is now kind of like 6 months.
So let's say 6 to 9 months.
and then Megan, in Lighthouse, do you see at the beginning of the year you have an influx of students and then they drop off, like as the year goes on, and then maybe after Christmas it goes back up with seasonal depression?
Yes and no. It kind of depends on the year and the population of students that we're getting in. There are some times where we have more SSP students, and when that's the case, sometimes we can't take on as many transition cases. But you are right, transitions between breaks and Christmas and all the things that's a lot for students to handle. So we definitely see it in up and down with cases.
So is there a maximum number of students you'll allow in Lighthouse?
Again, it kind of depends on the cases themselves. But usually we sit between, I want to say like 10 and 12 probably. Sometimes to 15, also depending on individualized cases. Because we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, right? Like these students are the most need in the building. And if we take on too many, then we're not giving out as much as we possibly could. So we try to sit between 12 and 15.
That's all I have.
Thank you again so much. I have a couple of quick minor questions. Hopefully it might. So I just wanted to ask about the Lighthouse, the physical location of it. Are the students, most of them, are they there all day, or are they there part of the day and then can you kind of talk about that experience?
Sure. So we have a Lighthouse classroom. It's up on the 3rd floor, and each student has an individualized plan. So some students we see all day long if they fall into that school or class refusal category. There are some students who are in their classes all day long and maybe need to eat lunch with us or do quick check-in in the morning or quick check-in in the afternoon. There are students who may go to half their class for like the instructional piece, and when it breaks into classwork or group activities, things like that, when that's too much to handle, they might come and do their independent work upstairs with us. And every day is different. Sometimes the one student could go to classes every single day, all day long, and then the next day maybe they need a break for half the day. So it really depends on kind of their headspace and kind of what's going on day to day.
That sounds really flexible, but it also sounds like it's probably challenging to keep track and make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. Tony's over there nodding. I imagine that's a challenge. Even the school itself is not large, but I can imagine that's a challenge.
Students, we know where they all are.
So what you mentioned quickly about how some of the students are on IEPs or 504s, but also that they can receive services outside of that. What is that documentation like, and how does that documentation go with the student up to the high school? So if a student goes through the program in 7th grade, for example, and maybe you don't know yet, is there documentation of that? Does that then transfer up? Does guidance get it? Is that what happens?
That's where like the case consultation and transfer comes in at the end of the end of the year. Like our departments sit together and go over the interventions that we might have gone through in the last 2 years, and then kind of transition that up. So they are aware.
So it's part of the student record. So if in 10th grade, for example, a student who had been through the program in 7th, there would be something in a file somewhere that they would know.
I'm not sure if it's necessarily in a file.
Okay.
I think for us, it would go with the confidential clinical record.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be in the hands of, an adjustment counselor,
Okay.
school counselor, for sure.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I don't know all the terms, but I was just curious.
Essentially, we kind of get together and write down everything in one document for all of our kids transitioning up to the high school. And then this is just now new data that we can drag and copy and paste right in.
I just know how insidious these disorders can be. And, a kid can seem fine for 18 months, and then all of a sudden something changes in their environment and it's back.
Well, you have the nail on the head of exactly why we do this, because most folks suffer silently. And without any sort of screening or being asked, is everything okay? Everything looks okay. But really underneath the surface, things are really not going so great.
Yeah.
And if we don't catch that in time and it gets to the severe stage, that's when things can get very much, clinical levels of whatever mental health disorder. It's important.
So my last question is, what percentage of your time, I know you all have other roles and responsibilities, what percentage of your time would you say is just dealing with this situation, the anxiety, depression? You have lots of other things you have to do, right?
It's a good question.
It's a wicked.
I'm worried about your workload. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, I think based on the way we run our department, I don't want to speak exactly for us, so maybe someone else can speak to this, but I would say it's manageable because the way that we assist students at the tier 1 and 2 and 3 level all works in such a cohesive manner that it allows for us to be able to work as a team to say, Rachel's going in this morning to run SOS and then screen this grouping. You know what I mean? Because we all work together and we have the same goals.
Okay.
That we can do it. But I would love to know actually like the percentages. We love data.
Something to track and report back next year.
Yeah, let's do that. We will do
More
that.
data.
One more question.
Yep.
Sorry.
Question.
One more question. Yeah. In the middle school, you guys have some really big field trips. You go to Quebec, you go to Washington, D.C. Kids with these kind of anxiety, depressions. Do any of you go on these trips to help with children that are suffering?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay.
Um,
A couple years, I hope to, once my kids are a little older.
How have you found that students who have been in these programs, such as Lighthouse or in your interventions, have fared on the trips? Do they go? Do they not go? Is there a percentage? How do they do on the trip?
I think that depends on the individual.
I knew I brought a pen for a reason.
That's right, Tony. Get out your pens.
I know that Washington, D.C. trip is
I get anxious thinking about the Washington, D.C.
no, it's a good question.
And I think, too, like Christine Martellia, our assistant principal who goes, would totally call us and say, hey, I know you work with so-and-so. They're having a difficult time. Any suggestions? That hasn't happened for my kids.
I think the short story too is that we work closely together. So we're very well aware of all of the things that are happening with students. They do their SOS programs and they do their counseling sessions and their 6-week interventions and so forth. And we're not involved in that, but we're aware of who's involved in those. And if there are big concerns, because there have been some students over the past few years that have come that have that, that we had a little concern over. We just, I keep an extra eye on them. We make sure that we have them with one of our staff members that they may have in class as well. We make sure that, we keep an eye on the nurse and make sure they're on my bus, that kind of a thing. So while the counselors don't always go, last year we had our BCBA come, which is our behavioral specialist. And we also had Kelly DeCare, who's our team chair, come. So they were all, even though they weren't the counseling team per se, they were part of our of our program that has training in a lot of those things. And so we make sure that we are really careful in how we place them in groupings and things like that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We are proactive with who is placed with who. We don't want to upset anyone. So we kind of carefully, we'll go in on the board and say, okay, we have group 1, group 2, and then we have all these other kids who can be with who can't. So we're thoughtful when we plan that out too.
And I think on an individual case basis, like sometimes for some of our maybe our tier 3 outlier kiddos, you might work with, leading up to having that safety plan, having a plan in place. So we know exactly what we're going to do, that the parent isn't necessarily blindsided. They might know that they make a long journey down to support their kiddo, or even just try to maybe even arrange, is it possible to give them support via that parent guardian on the trip or something on those.
So we've had that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. we've had that. And we've also had paras that have come with us that have worked directly with those students for the same reason.
Yeah, for us, we're always looking for opportunities for generalizing and like success. But you're right. Every once in a while, there will be potentially an unfortunate moment, maybe. But
Right. Well, thank you so much. Students, do you have any? Usually open up, let our student reps. Hi, students. Thank you again so much for coming in. We really appreciate that you guys are doing some really hard work over there. I'm don't envy you the task that you have, but I do appreciate you very much. So thank you very much, and I am all set. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You can stay and
You don't have to.
then do the budget. Do the budget with us, but you're also free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Made my day.
So
Thank you very much.
Are we in a punishment?
Just to let everybody know, because I see people looking over at the name tag. I apologize. I knew Rebecca wasn't going to be here weeks ago. She let us know that she wasn't going to be here, and I completely forgot. So she is okay. She just had a conflict tonight, so no danger.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it during the beginning of the presentation, and I went back to my email, and I found the email, and I'm like, oh, I should have remembered.
So far away was.
I know it did. It seemed extremely far away. It was so in advance.
Yeah.
So it's just the three of us for tonight. Woo! All right. Jay,
All right.
what do you got for us? Good news, right?
So I'm going to summarize where we stand right now in terms of the budget. A lot of this is going to be review. We've made it to December. What is it? December 10th. I think we have talked about the budget every meeting since at least September. So to review, we're going to create two budgets for FY26, a level service budget and a reduction budget. So we've got a preliminary level service budget together. We're going to work on that once students are gone until we meet next on the 7th, try to finalize that document. There will be changes, but they won't be very significant. Once we have that in place, paired with information from the town that I'll talk about, but they are revising their 5-year forecast, working with the consultant on that. And as part of that process, we'll get an actual number for FY26. So once we have some data to go off of, we can obviously do work to figure out that delta between what we're expecting in terms of funding and our defined needs for FY26 and beyond. So that level service budget, again, is designed to maintain an operational status quo. So not everything stays exactly the same, but in terms of our operational programming and the experiences that our students have, they essentially should remain the same. Same basic class sizes. Will they be exact? No, but the same idea, same curriculum, same experiences, all the same next year as what is provided this year. That's the goal. So at this point, we've had a lot of people before you to talk about their different cost centers, special ed, technology, curriculum, athletics, operations, and HR and staffing. So we did all that. We were hoping at this point that we'd already have that estimated funding allocation for 26 paired with that 5-year financial forecast. So tonight, I'm actually backtracking a little bit in terms of what I've presented in past months, forecasting out. I used the original, what we had for a forecast. I don't want to use numbers that aren't updated. So we're waiting patiently on that. In January, we'll begin the reduction discussions, and then February, March, based on the town timing, we will eventually have an FY26 budget to put before the committee for approval. So when we look at the preliminary FY26 budget in a general sense, our biggest cost driver by far every single year is contractual increases. We have 4 units. We have roughly 475 employees. We are 80% people. So salaries is always going to be our largest cost driver by a mile. In the budget right now, we've built in 5 new positions that we've talked about, the 2 English language learner positions and 3 others. So that total of 5, we may end up needing 4. If anything, I think this could shift to 4 depending on special education and literacy needs, but I know we need at least 4 new positions. Again, we don't add those positions and add great new programming. These are to maintain 2 that will essentially maintain class sizes, and we have a rapidly growing English language learner population, and we are simply meeting mandated needs with the 2 additional positions. You could argue that this one piece is new in January. I'm asking Mr. Trombley and Mr. Singley to present to the committee that idea of moving into an instrumental lease for the secondary schools, middle school and high school. The cost isn't overwhelming in a $45 million plus budget. We're talking about like $20,000, but I think it's about an increase, I think, of about $12,000. We currently spend about $8,000 to try to keep our instruments together. This would be a good, really positive shift for us. So they're going to come before the committee and at least talk about it. So for now, we've got it built in to the budget. We get more speculative with that last piece, that 11% transportation increase. What we're seeing is the signs all point to a real significant increase in transportation. What we're seeing right now, it's not so much in your general education increase. I expect that to be at about 10 or 11%. We're going out to bid this year. We'll start that process within the next few weeks and go out to bid. So anything can happen when we go out to bid, but in talking with a lot of people, I'm fairly confident we'll be under 15%. Where it gets more speculative and the story worsens is with special education. And those are for students, some in town, but the majority of our out-of-district students who we transport, usually in smaller vans, not large buses, and they can travel up to an hour away, to and from home. That adds up quickly, like over $1 million a year. Some of the numbers that are being floated out are up to 50%. I did talk to a superintendent in a district, and they went up by 48%. We're keeping a close eye on that. I don't have anything. That's just really speculative. We built in 11%, but over the next month, we'll probably build in more of a buffer, or at least isolate that something as something that's got a lot of variability to it. So our total right now, as we stand going into FY26 with those pieces in place, is just over $48 million, which would be an increase of 6.69%.
Jay, can I ask a quick question? Transportation. So I know we all think of AA as being the transportation company.
Yep.
But we manage multiple transportation contracts, correct? How many do we currently have?
Gosh, I couldn't even tell you.
Okay.
We have 2 primary companies that we work with, but so much of that work, you're in partnership with other districts who may be close and just happen to have a student or students going to that same school. So we may pair with Sutton to do a cost share and split the rate with a vendor that they use all the time. That we use Vanpool for, I think, 3 students in the entire district. That's through Assabet Valley Collaborative. I'll talk about it later, but in our recent meeting with Assabet Valley Collaborative, I think 90% of the discussion was about transportation. Vanpool's having huge issues in terms of performance, and everybody's been quite open about that. It's been a real struggle with transportation almost across the board. We are incredibly lucky with AA. And anyhow, in these discussions, we had so few students that were with the organizations that are struggling with timeliness, with staffing, et cetera. We had 3. There were other people around the table that had dozens and dozens of students. So we're very lucky in a lot of ways with transportation. So in the light blue is our projected needs. You'll recall that we had Pat Collins. We brought him in as a consultant in concert with the town doing a 5-year projection. We did the exact same thing. His findings were presented in a report. You can obviously see that the light blue matches up pretty well in terms of our projected needs, in terms of rate of increase, matches up with our past spending. You will notice in the top of the FY25, so this current year, in that budget, that red chunk there, I just want to refresh everybody's memory. Last year, the 5th year post-override, so we needed, and we had COVID in there. We were trying to get through that 5th year. We collectively decided to basically spend out whatever we could out of revolvers, primarily school choice and circuit breaker. So anything that we had in excess, if we had a rainy day fund, that was it. We have spent that out. We are below where we should be, for example, with circuit breaker. Under 500,000 is, it's too low. That's 3 kids move in, and we have to cover tuition and transportation. 3 kids would do it. That's just not enough buffer. Looking ahead, while we don't have this chart was based off of original 5-year projections. While the exact numbers I expect to change a little with the revisions, they're not going to change that much. There is 0 doubt in my mind that there is going to be a negative delta between our needs and anticipated funding for the next 5 years plus. There's just no doubt in my mind about that. So I touched on this, but those revolver funds that we spent out, that 1.2 million, again, that little, it looks little, but that's significant for us. That got us through FY25. So anything we had in transportation, preschool tuition, the big ones being circuit breaker and school choice. We went under a minimum balance of 500,000 in terms of circuit breaker, which is our key backstop for us. So going forward, we not only don't have money to spend to, I guess, bail us out, if you will, we actually need to think about, whenever possible, putting money back into circuit breaker, into that account. And we continue to be a minimal aid district with no significant funding changes anticipated. I would assume that there's going to, you'll, with no question in my mind, we'll see an unprecedented number of overrides put forth statewide this year, next year. Then there's no doubt in my mind about that. And there will be talk about funding changes, but the odds of that actually happening by anything fruitful and significant happening in the next few months, I find highly improbable. So just to give you a sense of where I anticipate us being for FY26, I only took FY26 out of the initial 5-year forecast. And I want to be crystal clear, the numbers could change. Our school need might shift a little bit, and that anticipated funding certainly could shift. I can't speak for the consultants and the work that was done. But as we stand now, we'd be looking at, for just next year, that FY26, a delta for a deficit of 1.5 million. To give a sense, this isn't, I promise it's not, well, it should scare people or worry people a little bit, but it's not really designed for that. I just want to make sure I'm being as realistic and upfront as possible. Let's say we have a $1.5 million deficit. We dive into the budget and take out pencils and technology and I don't think we have much of that, but let's say we find 500,000. We don't find it. We make it happen. And for FY26, maybe that would be okay. The kind of behind the scenes stuff, the maintenance, we can cut back on that. Long term, that doesn't work. It doesn't work short term either, but just go with me. That's 500,000. So if we still had if we still had $1 million to reduce by, we would have to go to people. We're 80% people. We'd have to look at reductions in administration, teachers, support staff, paraprofessionals, technology, staffing, nursing, guidance, and counseling. We can't just pick kind of anybody. We have 4 units. The great majority of our staff are in units. We have certain guidelines that are tied to contracts about who can get let go, et cetera. An average salary, in my best thinking, is about $53,000 for a person, because you're including those lower on the salary scale, those on higher end. If it's 53,000, that would be roughly 19 positions for us. The unfortunate part is that once you reduce by the 19 positions, you have to cover unemployment. Roughly $18,000 per person. That's $342,000 that you need to account for. That's an additional 6 positions, and then 2 additional positions on top of that to cover the unemployment for the 6. So it's not an exact science, but we'd be looking at probably 25 to 30 positions to reduce by $1 million. And we don't have extra positions. We just don't. So class sizes go up, programming offerings decrease. We're going to talk a lot about it, but none of it's good. There's no way to cut 25 to 30 positions without it negatively impacting the district, and that's just for 1 year. So looking ahead, an override will, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, will definitely be needed to maintain level services. The big questions include, will we put one on the ballot? What level of services do we want to aspire to? For the discussion throughout the fall, we've been looking at level services or staying stable. Way back 14, 15 years ago, when we were talking about overrides, we actually initially were talking about an override to improve and to build upon programming. I think the odds of that happening are quite limited, but this discussion certainly could be had. If the town does put an override forward, is it just the schools? Is it tied with the town? How long would it be designed to last? And what would that cost and that impact, obviously, on taxpayers be? The big question that at least I'm going to try to focus on throughout the late winter and spring is what I think is the core question. And that is, what does the town of Grafton collectively want to have its schools provide to the community? I don't think for a second that the town doesn't value the schools, but it's going to be faced with a very difficult decision. There's just no question about it. Nobody likes taxes, an increase in taxes. Nobody, myself included. So you have that on one side, and on the other side, obviously the value to the community, the role and the importance of schools in the Grafton community, home values, et cetera. And that's a big, big question. We'll get a lot of secondary things that I'll be well prepared for. This will be our 3rd override we've gone through. No doubt we'll get the schools overspend, teachers are overpaid, too many administrators, more fees will take care of it. That's a big one. And that help is on the way. That one always comes up, and I'm telling you, help's not on the way. No time soon anyhow. I put together I was playing around with some visuals today, and you can give me feedback at any time on this, but I was trying to put into visuals where we stand right now. And you can't see it particularly well, but each, like going across, Each vertical line is one of the 310 districts in the state of Massachusetts. Okay, so going left to right. In terms of per pupil spending, so that's an apples to apples comparison that the state uses. They add up everything that you spend on schools and divide it by the number of kids. So you can compare us to Newton, to Martha's Vineyard, to, someplace way out west that I haven't even heard of. And they lay it out. So Grafton per pupil, we are at 16,000, or this is always trails by a year, $16,585. We are 11th from dead last. There have been years that we've been dead last in the state. I think in the 14 years I've been here, I think we've got up to like 15 or maybe 16 one year. So we're always going to be somewhere at the bottom. It's almost impossible for us to move with real significance anytime in any of our lifetimes, including yours. That was kind of bleak, but it's true.
Often in real life.
So this is, in the blue, is the state average of $21,377 per student.
Oh.
Okay, so that's a big jump. You say, oh, what's the difference, right, Delaney? Like, what's that gap? I can tell you, that's the difference for us with the same number of kids. Because remember, it goes back to your number of students. Apples to apples, if we received the state average of $21,377 per student, we'd have an additional over $14.5 million per year. Yes.
I have a question regarding all the other towns. Now, when they're figuring out that total cost per student, does every town also take on the cost of benefits where Grafton does?
Yeah, they do.
Every town does.
Yeah. No, that's equated for, though, across the board. Whether you do it or not, that's included.
Okay.
That's good. Because some districts do that. Like, and I was in Shrewsbury, and we handled...
Like Newton handles their own benefits.
They could. Some do, some don't.
Okay.
Yeah, so they add it back in.
Correct.
So on the town side of the budget, they move it over and do the math.
Okay.
That's a good question. Wow, that's an even wider gap than I remembered it being.
That's the state average. Here's Northbridge. They're the closest to us. We're at 11th in the bottom. I think they're 28th, 29th. And they've had real struggles. The majority of our students from school choice come to us from Northbridge, but they're the closest to us in the area. If we received the same per pupil that Northbridge did, that's an additional almost 7 million a year. That's significant. And that's the closest by far. Interesting, when we look at Westboro, just a few years ago, I want to say it was 3 years ago, wasn't long. They were actually just past or just above the state average. And now the state average has just continued to plow forward, and even Westboro can't keep up with the state average. They're in another stratosphere if we had their annual difference. So every year, if we could play this game, we'd get a check for, $11.7 million, which would be pretty awesome.
But going back to Northbridge for just a quick second, I'm surprised. I know they've definitely had their struggles. It was dire. They had an override that failed, and it was just a mess. I'm surprised, but I guess it just goes to show you that money can't buy everything when the number one school choice spending district is Northbridge still, even though they get more money per student.
They do, but still at 29th out of 310. Like, if this was anything else, think of anything in the world out of 310, and I can't think of very few things unless you
How do we do it?
frame it in a weird way.
How do we do it? Like, how are we not, 5 years ago, Northbridge had to cut athletics. Like, how are we not having to make those kinds of cuts? What are we doing?
That's exactly what I'm trying to get across, that we are on that. We are right there. Last year, if we didn't have that 1.2 million, we would have made 1.2 million in cuts last year.
Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Two things. I think, one, we've been very fortunate that we have a supportive town, and we've been able to maintain and grow because we have a tremendous staff. And I also think some of it is they're getting a little more money because they have different challenges than we do as well, a little bit. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I just want to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
They're not rolling in money.
No.
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 Oh, okay.
No.
Just want to be
Yeah.
real clear.
But
Like,
some
they
of that
didn't
money
aspire to
comes
that.
because they have
Oh, no question.
certain challenges
different demographics, different
Yeah.
That's right.
different learning needs. I get it. I get it. I
Yeah,
guess what I'm getting at, what I'm getting at, I think, is just we're at the end of the rope, right? We've done the district, the teachers, the administrators, the staff have all done the best that they can for so long, and we've held off having to make major cuts for so long that there's nothing left. It's it's override or major cuts, and not just this year. And that's the message that needs to get out.
Yeah, I'd say it's even more so going forward. We'll see for sure when we get that forecast, but you can't, and I think we're good at squeezing budgets and we'll squeeze away, but yeah, there's only so much to give when you're at 11th.
Right.
And to get good results. It would be one thing if we were getting the results that we're 11th lowest in the state. We're not.
Yeah, no, we're not. Christy, go ahead.
Now we are 11th from the bottom, which is horrible. And but the other towns that are above us, and I know fees will not solve our problem, but towns such as Shrewsbury they have athletic fees, and they generate about $350,000 annually from those athletic fees. While that would not solve our problem, would you be considering adding fees?
That'll be up to the committee. I would not recommend it. Not at all. I think
Why?
Well,
Why
a few
would you-
different things. One, Shrewsbury, and I can find out. I used to work there. I'm pretty close with the superintendent. There's been a lot of talk at Shrewsbury about moving away from fees, actually. If you're going to put an override forward, obviously fees would not negate the need for an override under any way. There's just no way. But if you have somewhat significant fees, you're then asking people, like parents of whatever, say 7 through 12, if we had fees for athletics, they're paying an athletics fee plus whatever their increased taxation is for an override. So they're getting hit twice. But my fundamental issue with athletic fees is I love, and you guys can either agree or you might disagree, I love that students at Grafton High School can play anything, can participate fully. And I don't for one second think we would get that if we add fees to it. I don't think we're going to have kids playing. I mean, we don't have kids ride the bus because of the fees.
Right. And I agree with you, but I also would say, and I misspoke earlier as I pull it up now, it's $395,000. I would rather there be athletic fees than there not be physics class in high school, if that's what we're looking at as an option.
Sure. That's a
think
little different when
this-
we get to
when
that
this-
point.
When this comes up as an agenda item, I think we can discuss it then. I don't want to get in the weeds on this tonight, because we could go 3 hours on this, and we don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. Once we come to picking your poison, I may be more inclined to agree when it's one or the other, but in general, I'm not pro fee.
Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll be very quick. I wanted to just kind of piggyback a little bit because when we talk about kind of the back in your beginning, you don't have to move slides, but we talk about maintaining, what I always think of is it's those kids who started kindergarten, they should have the same or better experience than the kids that came before them. So people might think, oh, well, you had an override here, you had an override here. And we've heard this before, let's have the schools feel the pain. But it's not because the schools don't feel the pain. It's those kids who now have a completely different education system than the kids that came before them. And that's something for me that is just not acceptable. So I just want to be thinking about, like, if it's our third override, it's now to educate the kids that are coming in now and the kids that are in middle school to get them through. I guess I always think about it, are we getting these kids kind of through what they need to succeed in whatever they do next?
And they're in the system for such a short amount of time.
Right. It's 13
We just don't have time to, fix the state system. And, that's just, we're trying, but it's going to be slow, and they're just not moving, and they won't. I've been emailing pretty regularly. They won't look at the formula until fiscal year 26. That's when they're going to look at it. That's not when they're going to change it. That's going to be like 5 years of committee meetings. Right. Because that's just how slow it moves.
Right.
So in a nutshell, I guess I'm trying to say that the return on investment that I've said a million times, I would put up against any district in the state, but it's not going to take much of a decrease to get us off the tracks. And once you're off the tracks, it takes years. As you mentioned, Northbridge, they used to be a top-notch district, and they've struggled, and they're bouncing back. But boy, it is not easy. So in terms of next steps, we're going to continue to build out the FY26 budget book. I'm looking forward to spending a couple weeks on that. We hope to, maybe even before the 20th, receive the updated town forecast. And with that, we'll have a meeting with Evan and get a better sense of where he thinks we're going to be in terms of funding for 26. We'll then be able to transition to projecting out that deficit, going through what we did earlier in the fall with the revised numbers, and then present the move from a preliminary budget to a more formalized FY26 budget, and begin that reduction discussion that we know is coming.
And to be clear, so we'll have the 26 budget, and then that'll be kind of the goal with an override, and then the reduction budget is in case.
Yeah, that's correct. We'll have two.
So we'll be ready in either situation. It's just one is going to be preferable.
Yep.
Do you have a question?
About the budget book. Yeah.
Good.
When you're building the budget book going forward, now I've met with Kathleen. I've spent hours in her office. So budget's my history. And we've gone over, her and I, book to book, and the books keep changing year to year because different methods are being used, as I've explained to you. Going forward, I would really like to see, especially in the cost centers, for a snapshot, so a picture, the FY24 actuals. I understand, and I have done it, you can pull the actuals from each of these corresponding sheets. However, it's very time-consuming, and to ensure accuracy, I would like the FY24 actuals in there. And then in regards to other budget books in other towns, I've looked at many. A lot of them also show revenue, where your money is coming in from, not just your cherry sheet projections, but from your grants, from your fees, from your out-of-district, all of that. Because as I see it at this point, what I have is an expense sheet, and I'd like to compare expenses to income.
Yep.
So,
And you shared that with Kathleen.
Yep. And I'm sharing it with you now.
I appreciate that greatly. She said that both pieces will be in the book.
Okay, because they weren't in the FY25.
So,
Anybody have anything else? Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Are you going to stay there, or are you going to move
I'm
on?
going to stay right here.
Okay.
I even made two slides.
I have one more question on the book. Sorry, one more question on the book. If we go back into the book, do you have the book?
No.
Okay, then never mind. I'll email it to you.
Okay.
The draft 25-26 calendar, and I just wanted to be clear, we're not voting on this tonight. This is just a first look.
So I simply, the calendar belongs to the school committee. Just to be helpful, I put together a draft for the upcoming school year. Pretty straightforward. It kind of fell into place. I haven't received any feedback, or I think there was one thing I changed it. But on the right-hand side, I noted things that I thought were significant. Teachers with the contract now have 2 days before school starts. We won't have that mid-year full day that we have in March this year. It was just because of the way that negotiations worked out. And I, on my own, put as November 10th, the full day conference day. I put it in that weird Monday before Veterans Day. I kept everything else as simple and straightforward as I could. We kept the early release days, same number, kept them on the Wednesdays. If obviously I could take feedback now and until January 7th, we'll finalize that second page that has the marking terms and all that stuff. And I've counted it probably 50 times, but I'll count it 50 more to make sure it's correct.
Is the information on the right side, was that updated as well?
Is
Just the text on the right? Because I didn't send feedback on that, but I did find an error. And I didn't know if you changed that all. Looks like
the one thing that I did get feedback on, whoever sent it to me, was, I think it was from our principal, was I did change it. So it gives us a few weeks to, everybody can relook at it.
okay.
I want to I don't know, whatever you found. I think it's the
Mine.
same one.
It looked like the December recess was awfully short when I read it on that side, and then I realized why. Just needed a small change. 24.
It does have us attending the 22nd and 23rd. I mean,
Yeah, how do you feel
I
about
haven't
that?
talked to anybody else. Huh?
How do you feel about that?
I'm great with it. I love the idea of us having that last day be on the 12th. But it's really up to you guys. So
What?
I said, but we don't go back until the 5th.
Right, that's the part that I had, yeah. Should be the 5th.
Right. 'Cause you wouldn't go
Um,
on a Friday. That's silly.
Right.
Did you have something?
It's just a personal thing, and I feel like Mrs. Often might agree with me on it. I hate a half day Halloween, half day in the week of Halloween. Parents are already taking a half day for Halloween because they have to come home early with little kids. So to make them take a half day 2 days prior, and then for them to leave work early 2 days later, I hate it.
Didn't we have this fight?
We've had this fight numerous times.
She's been on the committee, though.
And I know Mrs. Mara will disagree with me. If you're going to put it on the week of Halloween, put it on Halloween
Or move it back a week.
or move it back a week. But I don't like it that parents have to take.
It's all yours now. You guys pick.
I don't have a problem with it going back a week if that works with the professional development schedule. I objected to it being on Halloween for other reasons.
I think a professional day on a Friday afternoon would probably be useless. So, but I agree with Christy. So I would love it. Then maybe the 22nd.
Yeah, move it back.
Okay. I will
But then you have
bring it
3
forward.
weeks that are kind of disruptive.
You're going into no school November.
Well, it doesn't matter because on Halloween week, you've got Halloween or fall parties on Halloween. Like that was disrupted anyway.
That day's going to be fun.
That's a great day.
We have
Also, Grafton, if you're watching, you want to send feedback on this calendar, you have until, next year. So it's a month early for you.
Yeah.
People are already asking for it, but if we don't know what you want, we can't do anything. Thank you for having it ready early, Jay. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right. Collaborative report.
Nothing too exciting. I shared a draft of the ABC annual report. That was the meeting that was 95% transportation. There's some transportation info that they still need to insert, but for the most part, it doesn't impact us. So that was their quarterly report. I did receive a question about collaboratives from a committee member, and I wanted to touch on it. And the question was a good one. It was basically like financially, why do we belong to collaboratives? ABC costs us $15,000. With $15,000, that's a year. So it's $15,000. SWEC, Southern Worcester Educational Collaborative, is $6,000. Difference being ABC runs job alikes, a lot more professional development. They offer a lot of services where they'll come out to districts and do work with districts on co-teaching, a whole literal menu of options. So it's very different than SWEC. But together we pay $21,000 annually. The average tuition savings for members is $10,000 per student for the 5 different programs that are offered at the 2 collaboratives. Currently, we have 7 students enrolled, And obviously we save, it's over $70,000, but you take out the $21,000 and we're to the good $49,000. So it's been we don't do it for the financial piece, but it doesn't hurt for sure. And that's all I had.
Okay. Any questions? Awesome. Yeah, I want to skip over E. We'll go to scoreboard advertising since you're there.
Oh, look at this. So as a huge policy guy, KHB for advertising in school, we need to ask the school committee for permission for advertising of commercial products or services. It wasn't too long ago that we brought another scoreboard. I can't remember where it was, a Unibank softball, which worked out great. No, I know where it was. Gigantic. I couldn't remember when. But it's beautiful. It's solar powered. It's terrific. So Ashley Paulson has been working very hard as athletic director, and she worked with Bankers Capital to get a much needed full scoreboard for the second turf field where we don't have a scoreboard. So I'm asking for permission. It obviously doesn't say Unibank, it says Bankers Capital, but the same idea, the same spot on the scoreboard, same size, etc. So I'd be asking for the school committee to approve the advertising as presented.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, hold on a second. I just was doing a quick Google.
I did the same.
Oh, did you? I just Googled Bankers Capital because I've never heard of it. And the thing with Unibank is it's a chain, and we actually have one in Grafton. So I was curious. That's not a requirement. I didn't want to imply that, but it seems pretty legit.
Make sure they have similar values to what we ask our students.
Money, we like money now.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the advertisement by Bankers Capital for the school scoreboard.
I second that.
Motion made and seconded. I just wanted to throw out there that they're an equipment leasing industry. I would not have known that had I not looked it up. So they help individual businesses meet cash flow needs, which is pretty cool. And they're in 45 of 50 states. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully this will help them get their name out there, because I had not heard of them at all. Somehow I had missed that was on the picture when I loaded it at home. Didn't even look. I just assumed it was Unibank.
We're in cash flow problems.
Can they help us? Come on in. We'd like some equipment called teachers.
Yeah.
All right. There's a motion. It's made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks to Ashley.
Yes.
It's all Ashley.
Awesome. How many more scoreboards do we need?
Baseball will be next.
Cool.
And then a new one eventually for the football field.
Oh, really?
Probably. But we've shifted over to solar, so hopefully that works. It at least is going to need some love.
Okay, so this might be slightly controversial, but I would like to ask the committees. I want to beg the committee's forgiveness. I don't think we should do the handbook tonight. We have 3 of 5 members here. I don't think that's appropriate. So I would like to just skip that over tonight and back in January with it. Does any member of the committee have a problem with that? Excellent. Thank you for your flexibility. Again, that was my fault.
I don't have a problem with it, but I will not be here in January.
At all?
I'll be in Vegas.
So sad for you.
No.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I've
Make
done
sure-
4. That's fine.
Make
but
sure there are at least 4. I think
Yeah.
that's better than 3.
I agree.
I don't, however, have a problem with the superintendent contract being voted on tonight. Does anybody have a problem with it?
No.
You've all seen it,
Yeah.
and this Brad was on it.
Yeah.
So why don't are we going to bring that up? What are we going to do?
I don't have anything prepared.
I know you don't.
So if you don't mind, I'll just
Go ahead.
give a brief. It's very brief. Because we were in a contract year with all of our other units, it took a while to resolve those. Dr. Cummings always waits until those are resolved before we go into his contract. We look at his salary yearly anyway. He has a clause regardless of when he has to give us notice. But so we agreed, the subcommittee, which was myself and Leora, agreed to just go with a simple 1 year just so we can move forward. With Dr. Cummings, nothing has changed in it except for the
There was
thank you.
not a change in the amount, but in the wording recommended by legal counsel around compensation for cell phone. So it's still $100 a month, but the wording changed.
The wording changed. Exactly. So it's a 1 year contract. We've already been in half of it. And we did agree to give Dr. Cummings a 5% increase. It is the largest increase he has received. He's been here for 14 years, which is wonderful. And we wanted to show a little bit appreciation for that and recognize the work he's done and to recognize the work that he has to do ahead. Passing an override is difficult. He will be expected to put in extra hours than he already does. So we hoped that that little extra money would at least let him know how appreciative he is. And if you have any questions on that, you would certainly reach out to the committee or myself. He did do some work around what others made and all of that. There's a lot that goes into it. But we're very, at least I'll speak on behalf of the subcommittee, Dr. Cummings, we're very happy to have you. The 1 year is by no means a reflection of how we feel about your work. It was more a reflection about moving forward with the real work that you have to do. And we're going to get right back at it probably in early next year. So we appreciate you. And yeah, we're glad you agreed.
Feeling is mutual. So thank you.
Is there a motion?
I need wording. Madam Chair, I would be pleased to make the motion to approve the employment agreement between the Grafton School District and Dr. James Cummings for 2024 through 2025 as presented.
The second motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I just want to point out 5% sounds like it's a lot of money, but it is not. I wish we could give more. It's actually a little embarrassing given how much work Dr. Cummings puts in for the school district and how many times over the years he has taken no raise or a 1% raise just to balance the budget out. It's happened many times. And while we've been able on occasion to backfill that pay, it's not at all a reflection of how hard he's worked and how vital he is to the success of our district and our kids. Any other superintendent in his position, 11th from the bottom, for as long as we've been in that bottom, would not have gotten the results that we've gotten. So I am proud and sad. How's that?
And I'm smiling.
Appreciate the contract.
And not only as our superintendent, but as the state's second best crossing guard back in
Some say the
2000.
best.
No, nobody
Some
does.
say the
Nobody
best.
would. But
Many say
second,
the best.
only,
I will
state
say-
recognized second best.
I will say the gloves I appreciate so that we don't get hit because those gloves are not.
We need to talk
They haven't been helped.
further.
Well, we're not going to talk about it.
Not right now, but later.
Yes.
I need to amend my motion. It should be through June 30th, 2025.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Um,
But it's retroactive to July 1st.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Thank you. All right. Is there any further discussion on the contract? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? All opposed, abstentions. Seeing none, motion carries unanimously 3-0. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to the subcommittee for their work on the
It's
contract.
hard.
Yes.
People sometimes don't want to meet.
Now.
Leora. No, I'm kidding, Leora. She was wonderful.
Mandy.
She's just not here. Mandy?
All right.
It was me.
Superintendent report. Do you have anything?
Yep, just a couple things. We were awarded 2 competitive grants today, which was great. Jen Mannion secured a professional development grant that she'll be talking about, and Chris Starcheski in GMS, the team, received an innovation grant. Together, they total about $21,000. So Chris is coming before the committee in January, and he'll speak to it. So anything helps, and they're both great. December 4th, I attended the NHS induction ceremony at GHS. Mr. Mercier in the executive board did just a wonderful job presenting. It was a really nice event. Are you guys talking about the concerts?
Oh, yes. But
I will be done. All you. I don't want to step on your toes.
All right, student representatives.
Oh,
we don't have
can I add one thing? I shared it with the committee, but they're going to start work on conference room F. So this room in February, 5 to 6 months, and we are going to be relocated to room A, where the select board meets. And I'm working with Cindy on the schedule to see what we have for conflicts, availability, etc. She was out today, but she will get back to me tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I'm being talked at. This is very unprofessional. I'm hearing yay over here, and what is happening?
way better. It's so much better now.
Oh, I can't say
He doesn't like it.
or
Oh, nobody cares, but it's going to be so much better.
it's not. You're going to regret that.
It is.
I don't like
You
the
don't have
color.
to come.
I
It'll be even better.
Oh,
I don't like the color. I think it's Millbury colors, and that's offensive.
Zoom in.
Just zoom in.
Zoom in.
you'll see.
Oh, and if Laura were in Vegas
benefit.
during that time, she could have zoomed in.
Zoom in.
Oh, that's great for cold and flu
The
season.
5 of us can sit behind one desk for whatever reason.
No.
It's
You
okay.
can even call in if you don't have Zoom. They have a phone down there. We don't even have a phone.
They get like mints.
I don't have to do the stairs and heels. I mean, there's so many benefits to this.
I'm with Kristen.
You have an old.
I mean, we have the.
Terrible.
Okay.
Go ahead.
They're fine. It's only 8:21.
Oh, I keep thinking
Mints and
21. You're right.
It's very exciting. But for what we have, we had mainly the first week of practice for winter sports. Most teams had tryouts last week. As referenced previously, we had our NHS induction night, which was really successful. They inducted many new members from both the junior and the senior class. And then the student council is selling holiday grams. This year we're doing a fidget toy in place of the candy, just for school rules this year. There was 3 successful performances of This Murder is Staged by GHS Theater. And then the Bon Voyage fundraisers are continuing. Senior parents should keep an eye out for parent communications on Facebook. Tonight, for example, there was a meeting for the parent committee at the Reunion restaurant. So if any parents are interested in helping out, they should just be on the lookout for anything. The class of 2027 held a hot chocolate fundraiser last week, and the class of 2028 just launched their ornament fundraiser. And also, DECA raffles will be sold all lunches throughout next week. And then this year we started a new teaching assistant program. So as we go into the new semester, a lot of teachers are looking out for more students to come and help in as aides in the classroom setting and to help their younger students. And we brought back STARS Awards, and recipients were announced for this month. And then the annual winter performances for our high school and middle school music department are next week. Band is going to be on the 17th, I believe, and chorus is on the 18th. Senior internship meetings with Mrs. Maley are starting to outline the process to get things going. And yeah, that's all we had, really.
That's it.
Delaney, you were inducted, correct?
I was inducted.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job. Great job. Awesome. Did you mention? I'm sorry, we were snickering over here. Did you mention that? Is there a coat drive going on?
There is, I will say we only got like 2 coats, so I think we do need to fix that up, continue it. Continue it. I think we're going to try to bring it back in the next month a little bit more, but I don't know. Last year we did similar advertising and got a lot of coats, so I don't know if people are all coated out. So I don't know.
I just see a lot of people asking online, where can I donate this coat?
Oh, okay.
And I think maybe we need to find a way to get that advertisement out of the building, maybe. So, if you guys do bring one back, let us know and we'll help you get it pushed out.
There are still bins in the front of the Commons. I don't think we ended it, but I think if we extend it within the next few weeks, we'll probably send something out again.
Okay, cool. Let us know. That's great.
And we were snickering because of the Mean Girls, right? Yeah. We're 12.
Beat girls with
candy
the candy grams.
It's so
It's a little frustrating, but before it was going to be a small like snowman or something, but then someone was like, we should do fidget toys, and we're like, it's probably more exciting just because no candy this year, but
So amazing.
we'll have to innovate something else for Valentine's grams. So yeah, something. Yeah, but
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Yes, thanks.
Good luck with your not really the end of the semester because you got to end the semester when you get back. But anyway, good luck. And we'll see you in the new year.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. Future agenda / schedule. I don't have anything new here. We may have to move some of our meetings, so I think we may have to. Well, I'll keep you guys posted on that. But the good news is I don't think our select board friends have anything scheduled. Although they can bump us out of that room at any time. So we'll see. We'll work with them.
I should know tomorrow.
We do have a select board member here. Right?
He doesn't.
Does he not know? He doesn't know. Oh,
No, he doesn't handle the scheduling. That's their chair and their assistant. So, hi, Andy.
Jefferson.
Any suggestions, changes coming up? It's going to be weird to not meet for a whole month.
We need to vote on the MASC.
Oh, the MASC contract. When do we want to?
Well, it expires January 10th, so either tonight or next meeting.
All right. Is that something that you need to touch base with MASC about? Are they going to send us a contract?
Touch base.
Okay. Let me know what's going on.
I will because I won't be here. So, I mean,
Oh, yeah, you won't.
I'll touch base
Right.
with Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Feel free to remind me.
Did CPAC? I see CPAC here on the 21st. Were they not here, the meeting I missed? I thought they were in for that.
No.
No? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think we asked for them.
Moved them.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Will it be in
that's right.
that meeting that you weren't here?
Just another.
We had athletics, curriculum.
What's the superintendent report on the 21st? We always have a superintendent
I
report.
bet it's pretty awesome, though. I have no idea.
I'm going to put a question mark there. Is it like a goals? No, the goals is there.
I don't know.
Because we just did your goals, so you can't do mid-year goals until March.
He's super good.
Okay, well, we'll make sure you have a superintendent report that night.
Or I'll cross it off.
What?
Or I'll
Or you'll
delete
cross it off.
What is going on?
The red herring report.
I feel like
All right, so budget. Okay, so town budget forecast on the 4th. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's not right either. I don't know what happened to this document.
it's okay. You guys can work it
We'll
out.
work it out. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out offline.
Yeah.
Up anyway.
Well, that was originally supposed to be for the following year, but that won't. I'll work with Evan. We'll
Right.
we'll reset the time.
Excellent. Okay. And we talked about making the hearing earlier at a previous meeting. We talked about moving it into February.
Oh, we put it on the 25th.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, yeah. Move it back a week.
Good. Okay.
March 11th just feels too late, especially if we have any like weather cancellations or things like I think we should just do it as early as we can.
Okay.
But not rush it. Like I want to make sure you're ready.
Mhm.
But you've already got the preliminary budget done. So you're halfway there. All right. Great. Anybody have anything else?
We were supposed to meet with, I don't know what anybody, like you were going to send out email.
Oh yeah, I totally didn't do that.
I know. So
Yeah, I haven't done it. I'll work on it. I've been just busy. Yes, we were supposed to have student advisory council meetings. That's all Kevin and I. We need to get it together. So, yeah, I will do that. The sticking point was that you really wanted to do a lot of them during the school day.
Yeah, I remember.
The committee seemed to not really enjoy that because, people work. And I was supposed to put together a schedule and then I didn't.
Yeah, I thought we were all kind of like, we understand we all can't be there and it does work best for the students. Like I say work for the students or
Yeah, and then maybe have, anything that's going to be after school, have it be when the weather's nicer and it's, later than having them come back when it's dark. Because that's when the attendance started to flag. Because when the sun starts to set at 4:15, nobody wants to.
Look at our attendance started to flash too.
All right, we need to move along because somebody has to go.
yeah,
so,
9 o'clock hard
so
stop.
we're going to move on.
1/3 of the committee.
We can approve the minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, but we need somebody to.
Sure. I make a motion to approve the October 22nd, 2024 minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion?
Just, it says there the school committee policy workshop minutes on the top. So she must have just copied and pasted or something. So just
I missed that.
small deletion. Whatever.
Dave. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
I make a motion to accept the November 12th, 2024 minutes presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, move to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a warrant. Or do we have two warrants?
It's 2.
That's all right. You two are having to do the heavy lifting tonight because there's just
It's all right.
I didn't get a workout today.
what? Do you have the warrants in front of you?
I can handle that.
She has them open.
The mofo? No, even better.
Yeah,
Oh, look
great
at
job.
me. Amazing.
I don't know how to present this.
Okay.
All right, sir. We're welcome.
As a chair, I can actually do this.
Okay.
Teacher, though.
I'm going to teach her. All right. So, Madam Chair,
Madam Chair.
I move that the committee accept warrant number 21, dated. Where's the date? It's not on there. 11/14/2024.
No, that's just, is that the date?
Yeah.
So warrant 21 in the amount of $159,763.61.
It's second.
Motion made by the chair and seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, I want to try the next one. I make a motion to accept warrant W22 in the amount of $223.40, dated 11/20/2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
We've got another one.
We do?
Yep.
Look at us go. Oh, that's a combined one.
Okay. I make a motion to accept warrant 23 in the amount of $357,210.54, dated 11/27/2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Excellent.
Great job.
Paying the bills. After the fact. All right. Policy.
All right. We have a quick policy tonight. We're presenting, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as reviewed policy EFC, Universal Free School Meals.
I second it.
All right. Motion made and seconded.
I have discussion on this.
Okay.
This policy was brought forward on 10/22 at a meeting, and I had said then that we'd already accepted this. So I'm not really sure why it's being brought back because it got withdrawn on 10/22 by some committee.
So is it on the site or not?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all set. I don't know where it came from.
Okay. Excellent.
Thanks, Christy.
It's going to be even quicker.
We already even met and went through this twice.
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right.
That's right. Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I'd like to present IGNDC, acceptable use of I'd like to present IGNDC, acceptable use of digital resources as a second reading.
I second it, but I don't. Okay, I second it. I have discussion on this.
Yeah.
This is a first reading. It was on the policy packet for 11/19, but we didn't have the backup for it, so we never took it as a first read.
Oh, we still don't have the backup then. That's
So
why I had
this is going to be a first?
No,
No?
I guess not.
It'd be a first. It's in the book.
It's in.
It's in the book, but
Oh, we didn't have the.
we didn't have the backup.
Thank you. Then it would be a first
It's
reading.
a second, but it's going to be a
Don't shoot out just.
All right.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks, Christy.
Okay. So this is an MASC policy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, nothing changed to this policy, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the only, no, this is good. We have a director of technology, right?
Yeah.
So,
Do we?
do we have a director of technology, Jay?
Right now, she's a technology coordinator.
That's her title.
But is the terminology understood?
It's understood to me.
I would assume so.
Okay. There's a space missing
Yeah,
the first
I see that.
sentence.
Yep.
I'm not trying to do anything. I just noticed it. No, I think this is good. I think we need this, and I think this is required. If I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this looks good. Any other discussion?
No.
And we do have the form. I know because I've signed it.
We do.
It's in Bright Arrow, I believe. It's the new name.
It is.
All right. If there's no further discussion, we'll move to a vote. Except it's a first reading. IJNDC. All those in favor? Excellent. That way, go back and,
Yeah, that'll come back in January.
but you won't be here.
But we will be, hopefully. If not,
All right.
it's not going to change. It'll be a second reading.
Oh, I just crossed. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
This is a new policy to bring in forward. This is KDCB district website and social media. I'd like to make a motion to present this as the first reading.
I second that.
Motion made and seconded. You want to give me a summary of this, or give the public a summary?
Sure. This actually, shit.
You okay there?
Yeah, but I think in the printout, Jay,
I just printed the PDF.
yeah, I feel like when we hit PDF, our edits don't always get in, and I apologize for not catching that. Because we actually made some edits to this, and they're kind of extensive, so I might bring this back, or yeah, because then you guys haven't had a chance to look at this. Because basically, where it says unauthorized use of district or school name is prohibited, we had a big discussion regarding when students use their own, like a GHS, where's GHS going, and they make an Instagram account or something like that. We've put language in there on that they need to ask approval before doing so, and or otherwise state that it's not authorized by administration. And it's important language. So I apologize, but we're going to need to bring this back because, and just sorry, I didn't catch it on the PDFs. I don't know what happens, but I think we need to stop PDFing the policy.
We're going to figure that out then. Maybe we print it and then make it into a PDF.
Whatever.
But you don't want to live.
You can access it to your.
But we can change the live doc so nobody can edit it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Must need to be.
and just let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Whatever works. But we've run into enough issues with policy, not because of PDFs by any means, but
Yeah.
let's not add one more. So apologize, but we actually did significant work on this, and
Okay. Well, we definitely will. We'll do anything. No action tonight.
yeah, bring it in. And
And if you bring this one back, I'd like to bring policy BEDH. That's one of its cross references, and right now it cross references a policy that's our own and not the MASC version, which should probably be changed over.
we'll look at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, sounds good.
Because we did just do BEDH like last year or the year before.
Yeah, I'm gonna just look at that before, but absolutely we can look at it. I'm not 100% sure. I know that Leroy's traveling over the holidays, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to meet or not.
You know what? If it has to wait, especially with your going out too, then you wait. We have other business.
But thank you. Yeah, I totally will do that. Okay, thanks, guys. So sorry about that. So we did good work on it, though. So I want to make sure.
So I have some bookkeeping on policy.
Sure.
If I could bring up.
Yeah.
So at the last meeting, we had EHAA, District Security Relating to Technology. We did it as a first reading. That's got to come back as a second reading.
Okay.
It was on the agenda last time as a second reading, but we didn't have it. So we pushed it off because the first reading was actually on 11/12.
Christy, I am going to ask you to just please send this to me in an email because I will watch it.
Okay. Well, can I do both? Because I don't want it to be not
Official.
deliberating outside.
I understand. I don't think it would be deliberation. It sounds like it's all administration, and you're absolutely welcome to speak, but I'm going to ask you to just...
I'll do both, yeah.
I will totally screw it up.
Okay. Okay, so we also have from the 10/22 meeting, IJOA, the field trips, that policy didn't get fixed on the MASC website. And then I don't know if if it was understood, but when we deleted a bunch of policies, those policies were actually in our MASC handbook and need to be deleted out. I'll say them now, and I'll say them in an email. The JE, JKR-1, JKR-2, JK.
Yeah. No, I know that.
They've got to
They haven't been out yet. Yep.
And then on 9/24, we accepted JICJ, student use of technology in school. That's still not in the manual.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had seen on the policy subcommittee that you guys are going to look at CHCB, which we did a first reading of back in July.
Yeah.
It never came back for
So what happened with that? Yes, I agree. I put it back on. We talked about it. And then there was some just discussion. People weren't at the meeting. I'll put it back. Yep. I'll just say I was right on that one. But nobody trusts me anymore. So I lost the battle. Thank you. If you can just send it all, I'll make sure it's taken care of. Thank you.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Member reports.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I went to the play, but Mrs. Marr will speak on that much more, I'm sure. I've met with Patty Keller. The robotics team will be having their first competition this Saturday. It's somewhere that's an hour south, and I'm going to be 3 hours north, so it's going to be quite a commute. And they have been getting quite the amount of alumni coming in to help the students. Not only was there's about 4 alumni that came in this past Saturday. There's the kid that's coming in. He works for a robotics company. He'll be coming in on Wednesday, taking the train in from Boston because he's in Boston for work to help with the robotics team. So they're doing quite great things there. And then I had the pleasure of going to South Grafton Elementary School and being a mystery reader for Mrs. Quinn's class before she leaves. She's going to be leaving Grafton. She's a kindergarten teacher. She's been here for years. She's wonderful. So I had the pleasure of reading with her class with my son. We read for my fiance, also known as my neighbor, who proposes to me on a weekly basis.
Oh, that neighbor.
He has a lot of good ideas. We're going to get married. He's going to buy me gifts for my birthday and do the dishes. So we went in, he read for that. And I met with Pat on Saturday, and we spoke about traffic in quite detail about the issues that are going on over at the middle and high school and how he's almost getting hit on a daily basis. And I've even seen him have to bang on cars because parents are not paying attention when they're driving. They're texting. They're doing a million other things. They're dropping off kids in front of the middle school gym, which they should not be doing. They're cutting through the lines. It's mayhem over there. And it's not even an if, and I've said this before, it's a when. There's going to be a massive accident in that lot because parents, and it's the parents, are not paying attention when they're driving in the lot. One day, I had to horn so loud in Dr. Cummings' ear as I was coming through, and another car was not listening to him. I thought he was going to go deaf. So it's horrific at the high school lot right now.
Maybe it's time for a nicely worded email.
Or a not so nicely worded email. The fact that Pat has to bang on cars because they're texting and not paying attention.
I was playing polite.
I don't think I want to be polite at this point where the safety of
I don't anymore, so I'm blissfully unaware now. But yeah, that's disturbing. I feel like this happens around this time of year every year too, that, people are tired, holidays are coming, we're distracted. It's not excuse, it's just observation of behavior, but it might be time for a reminder from the principals to parents.
And from the superintendent, because this is getting ridiculous, the traffic up there.
Just hope our students are safe. And our crossing guards, obviously. Anything else?
No.
Tell me. Laura?
I also went to the play. It was wonderful. And just congratulations to all our fall sports team, but especially to our cheerleaders and our football team, who went pretty far this year. So congratulations to both of them.
Yeah, they had a really great season. Undefeated again, which that was pretty good. I did hear a lot of grumbling about the lack of a Thanksgiving football game. I'm not really sure if I don't know what happened there, but whatever, grumbling. So my member report is that I went to the GHS Fall Play. This murder was staged. It was fantastic. Congratulations to all the students who were on the cast and crew. We have a very large group of seniors this year who will be leaving, which is going to be make for a pretty interesting year next year. But they're all so talented, and it's so great to see how they've grown as actors and actresses and crew members. I had another thought in my head, and it just went out. So I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's it for me. We have no correspondence. We do not need executive session. Is there any other business which can come before the committee at this time? Seeing none, I declare the meeting adjourned. Good night, Grafton.